Welcome back, fans and first-time viewers. We are 2 episodes away from the season finale, and this being the mid-season is going to be just a little bit different. With that said, welcome to The Psychologist is in.
What can I do, Foster?
Mix. Mix fit mix.
I am your mother.
Be silent!
Do you understand?
I've made references in the past that I was going to explain why the format for this show. The inspiration came from a paper that I wrote in one of my courses. My cross-culture psychology professor happened to be a horror fan. And when he sent us this assignment, this has turned out to be my favorite assignment out of all the assignments I had done while getting my degree. The assignment was to watch The Exorcist. I did a double take. I emailed the professor just to make sure that I was clear on this is the assignment. When he replied that yes, the paper is on The Exorcist, I replied back and told him, be prepared, this is my favorite movie of all time, so this is going to be a good paper. I had to write about the psychological disorders and procedures that Regan had to do. You see, at first, the doctors all thought it was psychological. The professor asked you to mention all the procedures and the diagnosis that Regan was given. At the end, you had to decide if this was psychological or horror. Well, we all know what the diagnosis for this was. It was this paper that made me look at movies with a different eye, to decide between horror or psychological, because the professor did mention that while they are both, they essentially are one or the other. It's a matter of psychological being the horror or just the plain horror. Well, with that said, let's sit back and look at this week's case, The Exorcist. Now remember, it's going to be just a little bit different because this is my favorite movie of all time. The movie is directed by the brilliant William Friedkin. You should look up some of the behind the scenes because his goal in making this movie was so focused. He did some things that some directors would get in trouble for now. Did you guys know that when Regan smacked Chris, he told the stunt coordinator that he wanted him to push Ellen so hard so he can get a genuine reaction when she landed down? So that was kind of, a little intense, but you guys saw the scene. He got that reaction. The movie, well, the stars of this one, Linda Blair as Regan McNeil in one of her best roles and one that she was never really able to get out of the shadows from. Ellen Burstyn as Chris McNeil in one of my favorite roles from hers. My second favorite role from hers is from a different genre, but Requiem for a Dream. Loved her in that movie. Jason Miller as Father Damien Karras. Demi, why you do this to me? That was a little creepy too. The late Max von Sydow as Father Lancaster Marin from Hello, Ming the Merciless, Flash Gordon. Yeah, I know that's cheesy, but it's one of my favorite movies. And not just that, he was Leland Gaunt in Stephen King's Needful Things. So I found the paper that I wrote for this class. I'm using it for this episode. The format was basically written in this paper. I want you all to know I enjoyed watching this movie to have to write a paper on it just to focus on the psychology part. And even though they were diagnosing Regan, well, we already knew how this was going to end. So, what do our character deal with? Well, now mind you, this is going to be directly from the movie. So, first, it is disorders of the nerves, disturbance of chemical activity in the brain. And I've tried to pronounce this one a couple times, so forgive me if I butcher it. Somnambuliform. I'll explain what that is later on. Now, mind you, the movie came out in 1973 and the DSM is antiquated. So antiquated that in 1973, I was removed as a diagnosis from the DSM. So the DSM is going to continue to evolve as we all continue to evolve. And fortunately, with psychology, it's ever evolving and the DSM is going to continue to evolve. By the way, let me tell you guys, I got an A on the paper. The first doctor, which was her medical doctor, diagnosed her with disorder of the nerves. Onsets are during adolescence with symptoms of hyperactivity, quick temper, performance in math affecting concentration, overreaction to depression. She's prescribed Ritalin and it's for the hyperkinetic activity. So the second diagnosis that she is given is a symptom disturbance of chemical electrical activity of the brain. It is located in the temporal lobe in the latter part of the brain, causing hallucinations and convulsions due to muscular spasms. The cause is a lesion in the temporal lobe that causes the seizures. Thorazine is then prescribed to her after this visit. The final diagnosis is somnambuliform. It's the possession, a delusion that the body has been invaded by an alien intelligence. The cure that's prescribed? Exorcism, which was the best way to cure Regan of the condition is what they believe. It was not psychological. What was wrong with Regan was that she was possessed by a demon. So as I said, this is the paper that I wrote. I did not need to watch the movie again because, well, the format was already done for me. So all I had to do was sit here and tell you guys about it. So I appreciate that I had a professor who had horror movies in his course. You know, it was greatly loved, appreciated. Don't know if he might even check this out. Anyway, with that said, let's go ahead and proceed with the final diagnosis. So, what did they do? They performed a Catholic exorcism to have the demon removed. They used the rites of exorcism that included the litany of saints. It is believed that through this rite, as is said in the movie, the power of Christ compels you. Though the rite itself only weakened the demon, it wasn't until Father Karras started attacking Regan and offered himself up as the host that the demon was able to transfer out of Regan into Father Karras, basically curing Regan. As a student of psychology, a Roman Catholic, and a person who believes in supernatural as well as science, my belief is that it cannot be explained and therefore supernatural. In the cases where evidence has been provided of possession, there has been no scientific reason to explain why it happens. Possession is spiritually linked through religions, Catholics, Christians, Protestants, and so on. With that, you have religion versus science. People want an explanation. They want scientific proof to counter the spiritual. Spiritualist argument would be that it was the devil's work. For a spiritual person, you do not need more than that. While a person of science needs facts and only to believe in proven facts, the scientific community would love nothing more than to prove possessions are not real, therefore invalidating the religious belief. Just as the doctor said that an exorcism is just a force of suggestion, which is not what it is at all. It is not a suggestion, it is a demon possession. The diagnosis of this movie, it's straight up horror. So, join me next week for my next case, Midsummer. Until then, make sure to subscribe and hit the follow so you can get the updates. And I'll see you next week on the couch for The Psychologist is In.
you